Hi, welcome to another episode of the Ambient Mellotron here on the Ambient iPad. Let's make some music. I'm continuing my exploration of the Mellotron Mark I sounds, and for this improv, I'm going to use the Mark I organ. It sounds a little bit like a Vox Continental or a Farfisa organ, which makes sense. The Mellotron Mark I is from the 60s, and those are 60s organs. The signal chain is the Mellotron M4000D Mini. Its mono master analog output goes into a Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 interface, which communicates back and forth with the iPad Pro through a USB-C hub that also lets me power the iPad Pro at the same time. Min apeMatrix again. It's a mono input, so we need to switch it to USB 1. I'm going to be using the Mark I organ sound. There's a lot of organs spread out across the Mellotron families, and there's church organs, there's Hammond organs, and for today this is more of a 60s organ. So let me just get the compressor going here so I can sample the cleanish organ sound. Now I'm going to use the basic setting. I'm going to jack the ratio up a little more because I do want to control the peaks. Lower the attack just slightly. I'm not going to get into, I really like compression. I use compression a lot. I have a number of apps for compression. I have a number of bass pedals that I use on my bass. And I'll do a tutorial on compression someday, but today is not that day. All right, so here is the Mark I organ. So as you can hear, that's kind of like a Farfisa or a Vox Continental, definitely very 60-ish. Let's just keep adding effects here. I'm going to use something I haven't used yet, bought recently. I've been looking into exploring MixBox. This is a great app because it's got tons and tons of different effects. You could really just use this one app for all your effects. However, I only want to use one today, which is autopan. I want to sync that. Let me just make it slightly faster. Let's enable this. All right, so this is the clean sound with autopan. All right, you can hear that through headphones. If you're not wearing headphones, it will not be as dramatic. Let's keep going. I'm using a lot of settings and, well, not settings, but effects that I've used in the last couple of improvs because I had one of them set up and I was running the organ sound through it and it sounded really good. Do have to make a bunch of tweaks to it, but the apps themselves are the same as I've used. So K7D, I use this all the time. I'm going to use one of my own patches that's slightly longer than usual. We already have that, so let's go here. Let me just get the feedback up a little. We'll add the ping-ponging in. And this is keep just demonstrating this, everything in parallel with all the effects one after another. I'm not going to turn any off. So we've got the compressor, the autopan, and K7D. So with staccato notes, the autopan you can't even hear, and you can hear the ping pong delay when I'm playing more legato. You're hearing the autopan until I release, my hands from the keyboard, and then you kind of hear the delay tail. Next is Velvet Machine. Last improv, I used Taj Mahal. I do not want something that big. Although I do want something... No, I take it back. I'm on the wrong app. That's the Audio Reverb, and we'll get to that. For this, I am going to use the exact same setting I used before, which is Max Cloud. Very slow ramp-up time, and then it falls off pretty quickly. Last time I had a 50% mix. This time I want it 100. And again, everything in parallel for now. I am going to route things in series once I walk through the effects. So here's everything with Velvet Machine. I'll hold the note till it gets up to the peak, and then I'll let go and we'll see what we've got. So it's a very slow ramp up time, has nothing to do with how long I'm holding the keys, and then you heard it just fall right off. Let me do one more. So it falls off pretty quick. I'm going to use Audio Reverb for part of that reason. I want to make a space, but I also, as Velvet Machine falls off, it'll be less noticeable because the long tail of Audio Reverb will just kind of keep carrying that along. So, so this was the one I was talking about before. We've used Taj Mahal today. I want to use a big space, but not as big as Taj Mahal. So let's use a church one here, no modulation. Let me jack that up a little, 90%. So this is everything in parallel. All right, and it's still going. I can hear it in my headphones. Not as dramatic as it's going to be because now I'm gonna start doing some routings here. So we'll route the compressor through the delay. I want then everything else. I not only want to go in parallel, I want it to go out through the reverb. Maybe MixBox not. I haven't decided, but let's hear what this sounds like. So I can kind of hear, I'm letting go of the keys when I hear it almost to the peak of that ramp up. So very, very 60-ish sound, but it really kind of gives me the vibe of a 50s or a early 60s sci-fi movie. And we'll accentuate that. I'm going to just do minor seconds. So there's a couple of notes. I've mentioned this before, you know, you get all the idiosyncrasies with the Mellotron sounds, more noticeable with strings and horns and real instruments where there's somebody breathing or playing or hitting something on the organ. Not as much, but there are a couple of, there's a couple of notes where like you can hear the one I played before is like a, it almost sounds like you're hitting a reverb tank a little at the beginning. It's just there's a little thing in the background. Then there's another one here, same note but an octave lower, that maybe in this 5 to 6 second mark, there's like, it almost sounds like another note, a ghost note of some sort. Hopefully you can hear it. Right there, it's almost like a harmonic, a higher harmonic. Let me do that one more time. Or maybe not, the tail's going to go on for so long. No, here we go. Yeah, it's almost like a ghost note. You need to have headphones on to hear it. Okay, so still going. Those tails go on for a while. So yeah, so that's the vibe, kind of 50s, 60s sci-fi, kind of eerie or spooky. Maybe I should have done this around Halloween. One thing I'm going to try this time is let me dim the lights a little, get some mood lighting for the improv. I really haven't done much of that, but I have listened back to some of the improvs, and I'm like, sounds good, but light's kind of bright. And also I'm curious to see how this camera performs. I'm using a Sony ZV-1 in the lower light. So let me adjust the light and we'll do this improv. I used an apeMatrix setup I had created for a previous improv for the most part. I did tweak some of the effect settings and added in an autopan. But even with a similar effect setup, sounds on the Mellotron can sound completely different. In this case, because I used an interval of minor seconds, that kind of gave it kind of a spooky or an eerie sound. Reminded me a lot of sci-fi movies from the 50s or the early 60s, and that was the vibe I was going for. So I kept the notes kind of brief. I was never doing more than 3 notes in succession, and even that got pretty dense with Velvet Machine and Audio Reverb. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.